you don't live through stuff like this without God's hand being involved in it. You know, God has a purpose for you too. So, you know, I blew it off. Man, what he's talking about, man. You know, God does not care about me. You know, if he did, he would have helped me a long time ago. So the second in that, I went out of town with a friend of mine, and we were out of town. And we were out of town, and I left the hotel to go into an ATM. And the ATM at that time, they were in those rooms. You know, you walk into the glass room, and there's an ATM in there, which is a super trap for people who want to rob you. Because I went in, people would wait, you know, coming right behind you and rob you. You can't go anywhere. You're stuck in a glass room. So I went in, I pulled my $60 out of the ATM. There's a guy came in right behind me. Apparently he was strung out on drugs. Whatever it was, he was so wanting this $60, he was not willing to take the chance that I wouldn't give it to him or that I would get away or draw attention. Because he pulled a gun, looked like a .357 or a .30. It was a very big revolver. Put it in my face, pulled the trigger. Didn't ask for anything, didn't say anything, didn't nothing. Pointed the gun directly in my face, probably about 5-6 inches away. And I remember to this day, I can see it. When I can see it, I can hear the click. I can hear that sound. Because I thought that was it. That was, I mean, in my mind, this is it. This is the last thing I'm ever going to see. He pulled the trigger, nothing happened. I don't know whether it was there was an empty gun. He was trying to scare me. There was a bad bullet. There was not a bullet in that chamber, whatever, what happened, what not. I automatically, after freezing for a second, I froze. Something in my head said, go, run, do something, you know. So I smashed him through the door like I barreled, bum rushed him, football tackled him, smashed through the door, you know. Everything went flying, the money went flying, you know. I just took off running. I went back to the hotel. I didn't call the police or anything because I actually was not supposed to be out of town. You know, I took my grandma's car without permission. So I wasn't trying to call the police. So that made me realize something, you know. And a little bit later, I told my grandmother what happened, you know. And she looked at me and she said, you know, Josh, God has a reason for your life. He has a purpose for your life. And he's looking for you, you know. He's knocking on the door, waiting for you. So you better figure it out now. So I decided I'm going to renew my search for God, and I became an agnostic. Because I didn't find the right religion, so I became an agnostic. I'm going to worship God. I know he exists. I'm going to pray. You know, that's it. You know, I'm not going to read, I'm not going to read the Bible or anything. I'm just going to try to draw on what I can from God. So in this era, I ran into a friend of a friend who happened to be a Muslim. I had met him on a few occasions, but did not realize that he was a Muslim because I wasn't able to put the two and two together with his part-time job as a drug dealer and him being Muslim. You know, things didn't make sense to me. Plus, he was African American. You know, and I thought all Muslims were Arabs. So when he told me that he was Muslim, my number one thought was like, get as far away from this guy as you can. He's going to kill you. He's going to blow something up. So when he told me, he was like, man, what is that foolishness? You know, all this is nuts. You're crazy. He was like, I'm not a good enough Muslim to tell you about Islam. But if you're really searching for God, because me and my friend were talking about religion when he was, a third party to the discussion, he said, why don't you come to Juma? And I said, what is Juma? He said, it's just like church with no chairs. So I said, okay, I can do that. Church, no chairs, no big deal. He said, come on Friday at 1. I said, okay, where's the mosque? He told me it's on Wade Hampton Boulevard. I said, where? I live on Wade Hampton Boulevard. I live right on the side of near Lee Road. He said, it's right across the street from Lee Road. I said, where? He said, next to the Holiness Redemption Church. I said, what? This was the church that I attended. This is a church that I used to go to. Not the one right near my house, but there was another one that taught you how to be an evangelist and a missionary. So I went to the mosque. It just so happens that the mosque and the mosque, the church and the mosque, you could touch like this. 2 hands. 1 hand here, 1 hand here. And the entrances to both faced each other in the same parking lot. I saw the building before, just didn't know what it was. Thought it was a gym or something from the other church. So I went in on Friday on Jummah and sat down in the back, you know. They gave me a chair, even though they told me there was no chairs because I was not Muslim. They gave me a chair to sit in. You know, and the guy who gives the sermon on Friday got up, and he started, you know, Innal alhamdulillah, he's speaking in Arabic, you know, and the first thing I thought was, oh my God, you know, like, here I go, you know, like, what is this guy talking about? And I think, like, he's probably talking about me, you know, like they're probably plotting to get me after this thing. Because I'm the only American looking guy in here, I'm the only guy that's not Muslim. And then he got to the part about the English part of the translation of what he said. Verily all praise belongs to God. We worship him and him alone. And all these things was, oh, wow, okay. And that makes some sense. It sounds good. And I remember the sermon today as if it was today, Friday, as if it was just the sermon we came from listening today. He said that, and this was a conclusion that I derived from the Bible that was not a doctrine of Christianity. He said that forgiveness of your sins comes from God alone. That only God can forgive your sins, and the door to forgiveness is never closed. As long as you're alive and breathing, the door to forgiveness is always open, and God will take you as you are and forgive you your sins no matter what you have done. So I remember this to this day, and I decided I need to do some more research. So I got a Quran, and I started reading the Quran. And before I made it to the 3rd chapter, I had already given my heart to Islam. Because it was talking about Moses. It talked about David. It talked about Noah. It talked about Lot. But it talked about them in a way that made them the peak of excellence of character. It made them a perfect character. These were perfect people in the Quran. The Quran said that these people were perfect. They lived their life exactly how God told them to in order to live as an example to us. In the Quran, over and over again says, God is one. God is one. You should have known that I am jealous. All of these things rang in my head of things that I had seen in the Bible. So I made it through the whole Quran in about 3 days. Went to the mosque. It was locked, of course. So I had to come back on Friday. I went back on Friday, took my Shahada, because I said, after reading the Quran, I said, I don't know how to be a Muslim or what it means, but whatever this book, whatever these people are that believe in this book is from God. This book is from God. And for sure, I remember the very first statement of the 2nd chapter, that this is the book that has no doubt in it. A guidance for those who fear God.
That's what the Quran says.
The Quran says in the first verse of the 2nd chapter. This is the book where there is no doubt in it.
What did it say about Jesus?
It says that Jesus was as the likeness of Adam. God said to him, be, and he was. And these things, even now, I'm getting goosebumps repeating these things and reminiscing on this time, because it was as if being in a room where you knew there was a door to get out, but all the lights were off, and you're fumbling around in the dark trying to find it, and all of a sudden somebody comes and just flicks the light switch on. That's how clear it was. Bam, there's the door. This is the way out. So, these are the things that I saw in the Quran, and even that the Quran, God is so sure about what he says that he even says in the Quran that if you're in doubt, then create something like it. If you're in doubt about this book, then bring me something like it. And you can't, and I promise you can't, then fear the fire whose fuel is going to be men and stones, the idols that you worship. So all these things to me, it was like wow. It's like drinking muddy, dirty, pond, filth, scummy water, taking a sip of that, and then turn around and taking a sip of Evian water.